I want to welcome everybody. This is going to be a conference call that we have with three gentlemen from Illinois. I'm extremely excited about this episode. We're going to be talking about getting rid of resistant weeds in soybeans. So to start out with here, I'm going to introduce each of them. Some of them are here by video. One of them that I'm going to start with is Jason, and he's actually in a sprayer right now. It's where I'm from, it's 5 o'clock. Where they're at, it's already 7:30. And Jason's still in his sprayer applying chemical right now. It's mid-June, and they have planted, and they're in their early spring, summer spraying. And so Jason's coming to us just audio only. So we've got Jason Clavin, a farmer from south of Decatur, Illinois. Jason, thank you for joining us tonight. Jason and I have been friends for quite a while. Jason's a farmer. You can actually hear his testimony in the promotional video. It's pretty fun to listen to about how when his dad and him first talked about weed wiping, they didn't think it was going to work very well and had great success with it. So there'll be a link to that in this too that you can access. But I'm going to get to the introductions here, and then we'll get into the interview. The next person we have is Lance Jenny. Lance is a farmer also from Illinois. He is also a custom applicator. So I'm really excited because I've got three different aspects of guys that are involved in weed wiping, but all of these guys have a lot of experience. Lance in particular has built three different weed wipers. He's adapted one to a Hagee, most recently a 60-footer. He's also adapted the wipers, the sponge kits, to a couple detasselers, and he's also got a lot of experience. We're going to be talking with Lance specifically about what he's doing in custom application, which a lot of growers like him have moved into that because of the success that they've had with weed wiping. And then the last person I'm going to introduce is Bill Hawk, the guy with the awesome beard there. If you're in the podcast, you don't get to enjoy this beard, but Bill is great. He's actually he's the sales manager for a company called B&D Chemical out of Colum, Illinois. And Bill, Lance and Jason are actually customers of Bill, and they buy their chemical from him. But one of Bill's many claims to fame is on New Ag Talk. He's known as the Weed Man. And lots of farmers around the country will go to Bill and ask questions about weeds. He's been doing this for 28 plus years, and just really expert at what he does. I've again developed a great relationship with Bill. He is actually a Smucker dealer for us in Illinois. So currently right now, I know even he's got some units in stock. We are getting ready for the wiper season, which is going to start here just in a few weeks as those weeds are starting to adjust above the crop there. All right, so in this section, I'm going to ask Bill to start us off. Bill, if you could give us a little bit of your background with Roundup-resistant weeds. When you first started seeing them, what are some of the things that you are recommending for people to do? And then fast forwarding when you first started learning about using gramoxone in a weed wiper, and then how you implemented that. So a little bit of background there. Go ahead, Bill. You kind of have the floor at this point.
Yeah, basically, we went. We were relying heavy on pre-emerge chemistry when we started having the resistance problem. So we were getting very costly. We were up into the $45 to $60 an acre range, laying down multiple pre's, trying to layer things, and it was just not cost effective. But then in that same instance, we started having more resistance coming forward. Our PPOs stopped working on the contact side. So we had to really adapt to that. But when we could get it to work, it worked great. But we always had to have a rescue. We had to have a backup plan, and that's where the weed wiper system started working for us, where we could come in and rescue and not damage the yield and the ROI back on the crop itself. So that's really what evolved into this program to make it work.
So Bill, what are you recommending the rates that guys are going to need to be used if you're going in your soybean, let's say July, August, let me ask this. I'm going to assume the main weeds are like pigweed, water hemp, maybe some mare's tail. What else would you guys be seeing this time of year, Bill?
That's pretty well it. We do have a stray lamb's quarter every now and then, but I don't know that we'll, really have to address it that hard. I mean, they've been fairly easy to manage when it comes to that. But those three are the big three that we got to clean up and be able to make it work.
Okay.
On there. So, I mean, what we've been doing, or most of the guys that are new that we get broke in, we just run a 75% blend of paraquat and then 25% water. And I've had very good luck with that situation on there. And as long as we can get it on, the trick I've learned is to find the right speed. Jason has worked with me a lot on that, and we've kind of dialed it in on how to get just enough, on the weed where you want to see that droplet rolling down that stem on a water hemp plant. If I can get that mixture on that weed and have it roll down that stem where you can actually see a bead rolling down it, it's dead to the ground.
And that's the key, right, Bill? I've always heard, because paraquat or gramoxone, it's not a translocation type of a chemical like Roundup. So the key is getting the maximum amount you can on the stem, and then you see some very quick results. Bill, what are you seeing when guys weed wipe with that rate? How long does it take before you can noticeably see that killing or the dead weeds in the field?
You can see it within 24 hours, and usually 48 hours. You can almost, they're almost completely gone as far as melted down as far as death.
Right.
It burns. It seems like it burns into that sugar movement. Evidently, it's going into the center of that stem and burning into that and just stopping it. At the growing it has. So it's
Excellent.
worked out real.
Good. Well, let's segue now into to Jason, because you had mentioned that early on, Jason was one of the first farmers you were working with, and even looking at how to apply. Because weed wiping, we've been saying this in the other episodes. Weed wiping is definitely an art. It is something that it's not rocket science, because you just want to get the maximum amount that you can onto the weed without dripping. However, let's talk about dripping a little bit, because when you turn your pump on and fill those sponges, Jason, I'm going to ask you to kind of chime in here. We can't see Jason again. He's in the sprayer right now. But Jason, are you still there? And can you turn your microphone on, Jason?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Okay. We can hear you great, Jason. Thanks. So my question to you is, again, if they want to watch your whole testimony, we've got that on our promotional video. But Jason, tell us a little bit about when you first started using gramoxone in your weed wiper. And by the way, Jason has used both. I'll preface this. I'll even show some pictures here later on in the video. Jason's used this on a UTV unit he built. And then also he built an amazing, similar to what Lance has done, where he's took a detasseler and he made a great, was it a 40-foot boom? Is that right?
It started out at 47, but I had to cut it down because of the weight on the ends. So it's a 35 now.
It's a great boom. His design for how it unfolds and folds underneath it's brilliant. One of my favorite things about this industry is seeing guys like Lance and Jason, develop something and make a boom that adapts to that application. But Jason, I'm going to kind of turn it over to you. Give us, tell us what happens when you see a little drip onto your soybeans. What have you noticed in that case?
Well, I guess I'll start off. When I'm running the wiper, I run them really wet. I don't mind seeing them drip, like you were saying, because the whole key, like Bill and I had talked about, and like he mentioned, is to get that mixture onto the main stem of that plant. If you get on the main stem, you're going to kill it. So the weeds are above the beans. As long as you don't hit a hole or something like that and dip a sponge down into the beans, a drip every once in a while into the canopy of the beans is only going to kill that spot on that leaf. Mm-hmm. It's not perfect. You'll do a little damage here and there, but very, very minimal. So in order to get that bead rolling down the stem like Bill was talking about, you have to run the sponges wet, I've found. I don't mind. I've kind of got, like you said, it's kind of an art. I've got it down to where I can kind of look at the sponges and say, yeah, I need to turn the pumps on. So turn the pumps on. I've kind of got a timer set in my head, but when I shut the pumps off, I'll see a drip coming off of them every now and then. I try to keep them as wet as possible at all times to get that effect and to get that chemical running down the main stem of that weed. And I don't worry about it not being a translocating product dripping into the beans a little bit. Like I said, if you get a drip onto a bean leaf, it might kill that leaf, but it's not going to kill the bean and hopefully kill any weed that you have sticking above those leaves.
Right. And Jason, I know you've referred to this as kind of a rescue operation, when, and again, we've seen the videos and if you're in Illinois, like Bill said, not every area is going to have the resistant weed problems. And a lot of times, those early on chemicals are going to solve that, which is great. However, when you get to that point, and tell us a little bit, Jason, about that point when you first started using this. What were you thinking you were going to have a crop, or how bad was those weeds that first time you used it?
They weren't terrible all over. We were actually transitioning from like Bill said, it's not just Roundup that weeds are resistant to now. There's a whole list of chemicals they're getting resistant to. But it wasn't so much we were having issues with Roundup. We were kind of transitioning from GMO Roundup beans to non-GMO beans.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, we layered the pre's and did all that like Bill was talking and all that stuff. And it's still, because there's a list of chemicals that are weeds are becoming resistant to, we were having breaks here and there. It wasn't whole fields, but it was, there were some spots that were pretty tough for sure.
Right.
If they come up, they're going to be above the beans, period, eventually. So I would say it was a disaster, but I've seen some, I'm not going to talk about my neighbors, but I've seen some fields of guys that don't have wipers that sometimes it gets out of control, even in today's day and age of dicamba and 2,4-D and all that, those kind of beans. So I'm pretty proud of the program we run and the ability to actually have something to come in and clean up with the wiper when we do have an issue.
Excellent. Jason, I really appreciate that. So let's segue now into Lance. Lance, one of the things that Jason mentioned is, seeing, the weed issue in your neighbors. I don't know that I've asked you this before, but when you first started seeing weed wiping, actually, who introduced you to weed wiping? Was it Bill, or how did you find out about doing weed wiping in your first year that you ran a wiper?
I seen it on YouTube videos and thought about it in 2018 because we were growing non-GMO seed beans and had a little bit of trouble. Then in 2019, our residuals that we were laying down failed, and I ended up pulling the trigger, and I bought 2 detasselers and a 60-foot pads from Bill and used them to make 2 30-footers.
Mm-hmm.
My first year.
And then when did you start? When did you start doing custom weed wiping, Lance? Was that the next year, or did you do it even in that first year after you?
Oh, that first year, there's some other growers in the area, and Bill knows that customer that I had. He had some non-GMO beans, and he had kind of the same issue that we had, a field or two that the residuals didn't work, and come in and rescued. Then I had some dicamba beans that didn't get dicamba on them.
Mm-hmm.
For whatever reason, and cleaned them up. I think that first year I had done 4 different growers, custom besides our own.
That's great, Lance. One of the things too that I want to mention, Lance, is even for the people that are listening to this podcast, what's the name of the county that you live in there in Illinois?
Fayette
County. And what kind of a range? I mean, if people are looking in that Fayette County and they're looking for a custom applicator, I know you and I talked about this before. how much do you charge to go in, and let's say a guy has 200 acres of soybeans. What do you charge per acre to go in there and take care of it and wipe his beans?
Usually it's in the $14 to $16 range, and that's the app and the chemical. Last year I did 550 acres in Douglas County, then come home to Fayette County and done about, I'd say 500 in Fayette, Marion, and Clay County. Got a phone call through Bill, and I went to Champaign County and wiped 500 there. Then came home and done right around 1,000.
Wow.
In Fayette and Marion County.
Excellent. So one of the other questions I have for you too, Lance, is speed. Okay. So actually, I have to say this at the very end of this video. We're going to show some TikToks. I said Bill was famous for being the weed man on New Ag Talk, but I have to say Lance probably made, well, it's my favorite video on TikTok right now. He made a couple TikTok videos of him going through the field, weed wiping. Even another one, the second one shows several of the different models that he's put together. But definitely you'll get to see that at the end of this. But let's talk about even in the video you put on TikTok there, Lance, that you're going through a soybean field, you're wiping. I'm assuming that's pigweed or water hemp in the
water hemp.
Water hemp, okay.
Yep.
And about how fast do you think you're going when you're applying that?
I believe I'm going about 5 miles an hour. I just kind of gauge it to how thick it is and how tall. With wiping, and guys got weeds out there. I did it last year on my dad. Had some sticking up 6 inches or so. I went in and wiped them. I should have waited because I had to go back towards the end and wipe them again. Okay. I found that they need to be sticking up a good foot,
right?
In my opinion, to get a good wipe.
Yep, I agree. So another question I have actually for any three of you that want to answer this. One of the key questions that I get asked so often is, how much do I use? And if you've never weed wiped before, you're going to realize really quickly that you don't use even close to the volume that you're spraying. Again, you're taking a contact herbicide and you're putting it directly onto those weeds. So you use significantly low volume. So as an average, because every field is going to have a different level of weeds. I usually tell guys on a scale from 1 to 10, how do you determine how heavy those weeds are? 1 being very little, 10 being heavy. But let's my question to all you guys, tell me if I'm very far off on this. And if you had to guess on, let's say, an average field, 5 being that's how heavy the weeds are. If you were doing 100 acres, we typically tell people you're going to do about 10 gallons worth of mixed product. So that would be, if you're 50-50, that's 5 gallons of Roundup, or sorry, my bad, 5 gallons of Gramoxone or Paraquat, and 5 gallons of water. Bill, you were saying 60-40. Is that what you're saying?
75-25 is what I read.
75-25. Okay, so again, 7.5 gallons that would be a 10-gallon mix. Bill, let's have you go first. How far off am I on that volume? Do you think for 100 acres?
You're pretty close on the average on that, I think. It's either side depending on the amount he's got to go through. There as far as weeds and stuff. That's the biggest thing. The other thing I've noticed is if you drive faster, with some of these guys, when they're new, they have a hard time slowing down and actually watching. They have a tendency to decapitate the weed with the sponge. They hit it too hard or break it over.
Right.
And then you lost your whole purpose in life. Yeah. So you'll be back doing it again. So that's why I tell them you can do it twice or you can do it once, right? So
that's right. Lance, how about you? Do you think you use a little bit heavier than that, or is that about average?
I would say that'd be about average. on the real thick fields, I wiped somewhere it was pulling my boom back. I'd say it'd be probably double that. But on average, I'd say you're pretty close.
Good. So, and Jason, you too, is that about what they're a little bit stronger maybe?
I'd be a little higher than that, but I already told you how I like my sponges wet. So
you want to do it right the first time. You don't want to go back and have to do a second application. And again, the beauty of this is now if you're applying it yourself, or even not having it custom applied, like Bill was saying earlier, you're comparing, up to $70 an acre compared to significantly less. I'm going to say, Bill, again, at that rate, I have no idea. What's a gallon of Gramoxone cost right now, approximately?
About $20 for the generic.
So you're a few, a dollar or two an acre. It just is not a high dollar cost for chemical application there. One other question I have for you guys too, because this is something that for those of you who are again not familiar with weed wiping, Gramoxone is labeled for use in soybeans, cotton, peanuts, a wide variety of applications in a weed wiper. Again, I want to preface that you don't want to spray Gramoxone or you're going to kill everything. I have to preface that, but I do want to ask you, Bill, specifically this. I've talked with other farmers about that have done some mixes of like Crossbow, or there's a product called Unison, which is basically a 2,4-D and Roundup mix based upon how resistant those weeds are to those chemicals. In your opinion, or in your experience, have you seen guys use anything different than Gramoxone?
We've experimented with about everything from dicamba to 2,4-D, different mixes. I just can't get away from the straight paraquat. The 75% is what I'm hung up on. It seemed like whenever I put the 2,4-Ds in there, or the crossbows, I dilute it too much. And I think you got to have more of those on that plant to do the job we needed to do. So I'd rather get the paraquat because I know it burns in the stem. Like I said, Jason taught me that the first year I watched him do it, and went and walked a few fields there just to see what it looked like. And it blew my mind how good a job it did. So
yeah. Let me ask another question then, because one of the things with Gramoxone or paraquat is the safety aspect of it. So Lance, maybe can you interject here some of the things that you do just to keep it safer? Obviously, you don't want to get paraquat on your face or in your hands. Let me ask this: when you're using paraquat in the wiper and you're handling it for cleanup afterwards, what's your normal procedure when you're cleaning those sponges afterwards?
Cleaning the sponges out, I wait till the bean field's cut and get the tank empty, fill it full of water, and run a tank or two full of water through the sponges. Then let them sit and dry. Then I take them out, of course, wearing gloves, chemical gloves, and put them in a tub and store them in my shop.
Excellent. I'm glad you said that, Lance, and I'll address that. Again, for those of you who haven't used sponge weed wipers, we've got custom applicators like Lance that will, a very, very common question that we get is how long do they last? And we've got custom applicators that will go 20, 30,000 acres before they replace them. But then at the same token, if you don't take care of those sponges, especially if you leave them out in the sun, they may deteriorate in a year, depending on how much sun penetration they get. So it's really important that you take those sponges and either store them like Lance is doing, take them off and store them in the when you're not using them, or park that weed wiper in a covered area, or even put a tarp over it, just keeping that direct sunlight off of it. Jason, I know again you have your 45-footer and your ATV one. Do you still have both of them, Jason? Are you using both of those wipers?
I still have them, yes. I only use the bigger one. The ATV one was kind of an experiment just to get into weed wiping. But the other one I still do use every year. I'm out here right now spraying, trying to avoid using it, but I know I'll wind up using it.
Yep. Which I think it's what, 15 feet wide. Is that right, Jason?
The ATV one was, yes.
Yeah. So again, that's a pretty common size that guys are using on ATV units, especially for pasture wiping. And again, I know Jason's done that in his own pastures where he's gone, and whether it's resistant weeds or not, then you have the option of using Roundup, which has been used for 30 plus years in applications where you're not dealing with resistant weeds. So, guys, I want to tell you all, thank you so much. We want to kind of keep these things short, but I would encourage those of you who are joining the podcast or the YouTube channel, please feel free to contact us with your questions. I'm going to do a quick pitch like I mentioned before. Bill with B&D Chemical in Cullum, Illinois. It's when we're recording this, by the way, it's June of 2021. Right now, Bill's got 60-foot kits in stock. And like we've seen for many years, most farmers wait until it's too late, or they don't think about how long it's going to take to build a unit. So to touch on that real quickly here, I know Lance and both Jason have built units, and that takes a lot of time. They couldn't have done that 2 weeks before they need to get out there and weed wipe. However, Bill, the last thing I'll ask of you is, I know you've had some customers that will take our kits and put them on Case, John Deere, Hagie. The question I have for you, Bill, is, in your opinion, if you had the choice of a front boom like a Hagie or a rear boom like a Case, what would be your preference in adapting that wiper kit to those booms?
For me, the ultimate is the front boom, where you can watch what you're doing, get your height set, that type thing. To me, that's where it's at. We got both running. We've had up to 100-foot kit. That guy, I tried to tell him no, to stay at 60, but he was insistent upon it. Didn't want to make any more tracks. But it was so hard to keep that 100-foot out of the crop, because, like Lance said earlier in his conversation, that water hemp was, by the time he made the move, we got it mounted, we got a rain, and the beans caught up with the weeds.
Yep.
So he only had 6 to 8 inches sticking up, and he's trying to wipe with a 100-foot boom, and he kept dipping in the crop, and he was upset. And that's just what it takes. I tried to tell him, if you go to 60, you can manage it, on there a lot better. So, and that's what you really have to do. But 60-foot, that's why I stock those, because I don't want anybody to even be encouraged to buy anything wider than that right now, because it just doesn't work as well.
Absolutely. And so to address that, again, if you're thinking about putting a weed wiper on your sprayer boom, and let's say you have a 90-foot boom or 120-foot boom, Lance, I know you use GPS on your machines, right? For steering or foam? I'm assuming
for steering.
Yeah,
so
for steering. Okay.
Watch the booms better.
So I'm going to just to throw this out there for those of you who are wanting to put this on. Let's say you have a 90-60 boom. If you put it on the 60-foot boom, again, auto height control is very helpful in this application, but 60 feet is much more manageable than 90. So we definitely encourage you guys to do that. And then to address that, because you do want less wheel tracks through your soybeans. And so if you're spraying at 90, I've had many guys actually go with a 60-foot weed wiper, because it doesn't matter if you wipe those same weeds twice. You just don't want to miss an area. And I've had guys program their guidance to 45s. So in other words, you're going to go down your 90s, and then you're going to go down. You're basically just doing one more pass through the field. All right. So in this section, Lance, I'm going to ask you a couple quick questions about your application itself. Right now, you're using a Hagie, and that's a 60-foot boom. Is that right, Lance?
Yep.
Okay. One of the things we've talked about in the past too is that it's not just water hemp, mare's tail, pigweed. What's some other weeds, or what else are you seeing in the fields also that this is working on?
I've had good luck with volunteer corn. Killed some cockaburs that are up pretty high. but they're kind of hard on the cockleburs are hard on the pad, so I try not to get them most of the time. Water hemp, velvet, anything that's really sticking up a good foot, 8 inches to a foot, I've been killing.
Good.
Even shatter cane.
Oh, really? Shatter cane, we're seeing guys in Kansas and places where they raise a lot of milo. Shatter cane is a very common thing for people to weed wipe because, again, it grows up taller, which I'm assuming, again, I'm a grass seed farmer out here, so I'm not as familiar with that. But shatter cane, is that in the same family as corn? Is that right? Is it a grass?
Yeah, it's a grass.
Uh-huh. So Roundup would probably kill it. But at the same time, I think that gramoxone, I'm assuming in your application, gramoxone does well with that volunteer corn, right?
Yes.
Good.
And
Excellent.
I've wiped earlier in the year some clover, the mustard and clover with Roundup, and had good luck.
You're raising clover for pastures or clover for seed?
Clover for hay. Then we cut our clover, then plant corn for silage. But last year we had a bad mustard problem, and we cleaned it up with that.
Fantastic. Well, guys, again, I want to thank you all for all joining this meeting here. Again, I appreciate you guys taking the time. For those of you who are listening on YouTube and the podcast, we encourage you to ask us questions. You can contact us at 541-995-8000, or you can visit our website. There's lots of information at smucker.net. But the last thing here, I just want to do a quick pitch for 2 of the guys that have joined us. Bill, thank you so much for joining. I would encourage you to contact Bill. Bill, can you give us the phone number for your location there, how to contact you if farmers want to buy, even if they're not in Illinois? These kits are UPSable. So, Bill, give us your phone number there, if you would.
Just contact me directly at 636-856-3400. That number gets me 24 hours a day. So that's the one I usually sell off of.
Fantastic. And Lance, if someone's interested in having you come do some custom weed wiping, if you don't mind, can you give us your phone number also?
My number is 618-267-0296.
Fantastic. All right. Well, guys, thank you again for joining us. At the very end of this, we're going to be showing some the videos. We're going to show the TikTok videos that Lance has done. Thank you for doing that, Lance. By the way, if you're in Illinois, I know Bill probably has some contacts. I have some contacts for a company that actually sells used detasselers. I would encourage you to look on places like Fastline and Tractor House, those places. Actually, I'm curious, Lance, where did you find your detasselers? Did you find them locally or did you find them online?
The detasselers I found on Facebook, and I don't know where I found the Hagee. I think it was on Ag Talk, I believe.
Yeah, I think I sent you the link. That is right. I forgot about that.
Lance, if you don't mind me asking, approximately what did you pay for? I know you bought in 2 different detasselers. What did you pay for your used detasseler? Do you remember?
I think they were like $1,100 a piece, and I was big work. And I was like, if I'm going to pay a truck to haul one, I might as well have them haul 2. So that's why I bought 2.
All right, guys, I've got a lot to take from, so thank you so much again. Have a great evening, and we will keep in touch.
About 250 a gallon, I'm out here churning up dirt and I'm working, turning the plow when you dig. Probably do it on your own time. I keep your youngest supper coming down the lunch line.
We're making them dirt road dollars, way out yonder, having them holler.
That's what this good old boys gonna go out working on. Working on, coming to Jesus, kicking about wrestling with our roots. Trying to turn off mama's tears and fill our daddy's boots. Shutting up our pride, fixing bridges we burn. Learning